Some places feel wrong the moment you walk in. Not haunted, not cursed. Wrong in a way that takes a moment to name, like something happened there, and the walls still remember it. These are 3 true accounts submitted by people who booked a place to stay and found something they were never meant to find. The shower in the master bathroom had been running for 11 minutes before Dana realized she was the only one in the house. She stood at the foot of the stairs, listening. The water kept running. Dana Mercer was 31 years old, a graphic designer from Portland, Oregon, who took solo trips the way other people took vitamins, regularly, and with the firm belief that they were good for her. The house she had booked was in Asheville, North Carolina, a 4-bedroom Victorian on a quiet residential street, listed as a peaceful retreat for up to 8 guests. She had it entirely to herself for 5 nights. The photos showed wide wooden floors, exposed brick, a claw foot tub, and a garden that backed up against a tree line. The host, a man named Gerald, whose profile photo showed someone in his 60s with a wide smile, had a rating of 4.96 stars and over 200 reviews. Things like cozy and perfect, and Gerald was so responsive and felt completely at home. Dana arrived on a Thursday afternoon in October. The lockbox code worked on the first try. The house smelled like cedar and something faintly floral. A plug-in air freshener in the hallway, she noticed, shaped like a pine tree. She did what she always did in a new space. She walked through every room, living room, kitchen, dining area, 3 of the 4 bedrooms, the master bathroom with its clawfoot tub, the basement door, locked, which the listing had mentioned. Basement is off limits for guests, used for storage. She didn't think anything of it. She chose the 2nd floor bedroom with the window seat overlooking the garden, unpacked her bag, made herself tea, sat down to work. By 9 o'clock, she was in bed reading. By 10, she was asleep. She didn't hear anything that first night. That would come later. The 2nd day passed without incident. It was on the 3rd morning that she noticed the coffee. She had made a full pot the night before, 8 cups, and drunk 2 of them before going to bed. When she came downstairs at 7 in the morning, the pot was empty and sitting in the drying rack beside the sink. Dana stood in the kitchen for a long time. She thought about it carefully. She had a habit of cleaning up before bed, but she was almost certain she had left the pot on the counter. Almost. It was the kind of thing you don't pay attention to, which made it easy to doubt yourself. She made a new pot. She didn't mention it to anyone. That afternoon, she found a towel. It was in the hallway bathroom, not the one she used, the one she had barely entered since arriving. A hand towel folded neatly over the towel bar, slightly damp. Dana picked it up, held it. She set it back down. She went to her laptop and opened the Airbnb app. She reread the listing. It said, clearly, entire home. You'll have the place to yourself. She checked her messages with Gerald. He had sent her a welcome note on the day of check-in and nothing since. She typed, "Hi, Gerald. Just checking. Is there anyone else with access to the property during my stay? Cleaner, maintenance, anyone?" He replied 40 minutes later. "No, it's all yours. Let me know if you need anything." Dana put her phone face down on the table. She told herself there was an explanation. Old house. Maybe she had used that bathroom and forgotten. Maybe she had moved the towel herself without thinking. She was working long hours, tired. She believed this for approximately 18 more hours. On the fourth night, she woke up at 2 a.m. Not gradually, all at once, the way you wake when something pulls you out of sleep rather than letting you drift. She lay still, listening. The house was quiet, and then it wasn't. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, on the floor directly below her, moving from what she thought was the kitchen toward the hallway. Stopping, starting again. Dana did not move. She was aware of her own breathing, of the weight of the blanket on her chest, of the specific quality of the dark in a house you don't know well. The footsteps stopped at the bottom of the stairs. She heard nothing for 4 minutes. She would later say she counted. Then the sound of a door. Soft, careful, and silence. Dana reached for her phone without turning on the light. She opened her messages and typed to a friend back in Portland. "I think someone is in this house with me. I'm going to call 911. If you don't hear from me in 10 minutes, call them yourself." She sent the message. Then she called 911. The dispatcher was calm, told her to stay in the room, lock the door if she could, don't engage with anyone. She locked the door. She sat against the wall beside the bed in the corner with the lamp in her hand, the only thing in the room that might function as a weapon. The police arrived in 7 minutes. They searched the house floor by floor. In the basement, the one Gerald had listed as off-limits, used for storage, they found a cot, a small battery-powered lamp, a backpack, an ashtray with 2 cigarette butts, and a coffee mug, still warm. The man in the basement was Gerald's adult son. He was 38 years old and, according to Gerald, had been going through a difficult time and had been living in the basement of the property without Gerald's knowledge. Gerald said he had no idea. The police found no evidence of forced entry, which meant the son had a key. He had been in the house since before Dana arrived. He had been there for 3 days, moving quietly, using the kitchen at night, using the bathroom when he thought she was asleep. He had not harmed her. He had not tried to. But he had watched the light under her bedroom door go off each night before he moved around. He knew her schedule. He had adjusted to it. Dana received a full refund. Airbnb suspended Gerald's listing pending investigation. She filed a police report. She flew home 2 days early. The thing she said she couldn't stop thinking about, months later, in an interview she gave to a true crime podcast, wasn't the footsteps. It wasn't the coffee pot or the damp towel. It was something the officer had mentioned, almost in passing, while writing his report. The cot in the basement, he said, was positioned directly below her bedroom, and there was a small hole in the ceiling, about the size of a coin. The officer assumed it was for electrical wiring. "Old house," he said. "Those things happen." Dana didn't ask what it was positioned toward. She already knew. She never booked a solo trip again. Not because of what happened, because of what almost certainly happened that she will never be able to prove. The booking confirmation said checkout was at 11. Marcus checked out at 10:53. The man was already in the apartment, waiting for him to leave. Marcus Webb was 26, a sales rep from Chicago who traveled for work roughly 3 weeks out of every month. He knew how to live out of a suitcase. He knew which hotel chains had the best coffee, which airports had the fastest TSA lines, which Airbnb hosts left the good shampoo. The apartment he booked in Nashville was a 1-bedroom in a mid-rise building on the edge of downtown. The kind of place that had been converted from long-term rentals to short-term ones when the math stopped working the other way. The host was a property management company, not an individual. The listing had 4.5 stars and 400 reviews. He stayed there 4 nights on a work trip in March. On the morning of his 5th day, checkout day, he woke at 8, packed methodically, made coffee from the pod machine on the counter, and sat at the kitchen table going through emails until 10:45. He did one last sweep of the apartment, checked the bathroom, the nightstand, under the bed, zipped his bag, walked to the door. He opened it and stepped into the hallway. The door clicked shut behind him. He was at the elevator when he realized he had left his laptop charger plugged in beside the bed. He turned around. The building used a key card system. Guests received a code for a lockbox at the building entrance and a physical key card for the unit. His key card was still in his jacket pocket. He walked back down the hallway, slid the card, opened the door. The apartment was different. Not dramatically, not in a way that would have registered immediately if he hadn't just spent 4 nights there. But the kitchen chair, the one he had been sitting in 10 minutes ago, was pushed back to the table. He had left it at an angle. He was certain of it. He had a specific habit of not pushing chairs in, which his mother had pointed out to him his entire childhood. The coffee mug he had rinsed and left in the drying rack was in the cupboard. Marcus stood in the doorway. He scanned the apartment. The bedroom door was closed. He had left it open. He stood there for what he later estimated was 30 seconds. Then he walked to the bedroom door and opened it. The charger was on the floor beside the bed, exactly where he had left it. The bed had been made tightly, precisely, the way housekeeping makes a bed, even though he had been lying in it an hour ago. His first thought was that housekeeping had entered the apartment while he was in the kitchen. But he had been at the kitchen table. He would have heard the door. He would have seen someone walk past. His second thought arrived more slowly. The bedroom door had been closed from the inside. Marcus grabbed the charger and left the apartment. In the elevator, he pulled out his phone and messaged the property management company. Just checked out of Unit 412. I came back for a charger, and the apartment looked like it had been cleaned while I was still in it. Some bed made, dishes put away. Is that normal? Was someone in there? The reply came in 4 minutes. Hi, Marcus. Thanks for staying with us. Our cleaning team does sometimes begin turnover before the official checkout window if the previous guest has checked out early via the app. We apologize for any confusion. Hope to host you again soon. Marcus read the message twice. He had not checked out via the app. He opened the Airbnb app and looked at his booking. It showed him as checked out at 10:37. He had been at the kitchen table at 10:37. He called Airbnb support from the parking garage. The representative told him that checkout had been logged at 10:37 via the property's smart lock system, meaning the door had been opened and then closed, which the system registered as departure. Marcus explained that he had been inside at that time, that the door had not opened while he was there. There was a pause on the line. The representative said, "Sir, the smart lock records show the door opened at 10:37 and remained open for approximately 40 seconds before closing." Marcus had been at the kitchen table. The kitchen was not visible from the front door. Someone had opened the door, entered, and closed it. And Marcus had not heard them. The property management company never gave Marcus a straight answer. Their position, consistent across every message, was that a cleaning staff member had entered the unit after detecting an early checkout via the app, and that the app had logged the checkout in error. They offered him a 15% discount on a future stay. Marcus did not take it. He went back and read the one-star reviews of the listing. There were 11 of them, buried under hundreds of 4 and 5 stars. 3 of them mentioned similar things: items moved, beds made before departure, the feeling of someone having been in the unit. One of them, posted 14 months earlier, said only, "I don't know who was in there with me. Management says it was cleaning staff, but I locked the deadbolt from inside, and it was unlocked when I woke up. Don't stay here." The review had 4 likes. The listing was still active. Marcus now reads every 1-star review of any property before he books. He looks for patterns. He has found them twice more since Nashville. He has never reported either one. He said he wasn't sure who he would be reporting it to, or whether it would matter. The Nashville apartment currently has a 4.6-star rating. It is listed as a superhost property. The calendar shows it's booked most weekends through the rest of the year. The host's name in the app was Paul. His profile photo showed a man in his 50s, standing in a field, squinting into the sun. The man who opened the door was not him. Claire and her boyfriend Ryan had booked the farmhouse for a long weekend in late September. Their first trip together, after 2 years of talking about taking one. The property was listed as a secluded countryside retreat in rural Vermont, 4 hours from Boston, where they lived. The listing showed a red farmhouse at the end of a dirt road with a porch, a fire pit, and 30 acres of land backing up to state forest. No neighbors within a mile. Paul had a 4.8-star rating. His bio said he was a retired school teacher who had inherited the property from his parents and loved sharing it with guests. Several reviews mentioned him by name. Paul was kind and welcoming. Paul left us firewood and local honey. Paul checked in to make sure we had everything we needed. They arrived at dusk. The dirt road was a half-mile long and deeply rutted. Ryan drove slowly, the headlights cutting through the trees on either side. The farmhouse appeared at the end of the road exactly as it looked in the photos. Red, weathered, with a porch light on. A figure standing on the porch. Ryan parked. They got out. The man on the porch was younger than the profile photo. Late 30s, maybe 40. Thin. He was smiling, but the smile arrived a half-second too late, like something he remembered to do. "You must be Claire and Ryan," he said. "I'm Paul's son. He asked me to let you in." His name was Derek. He showed them through the house, kitchen, living room, 2 bedrooms upstairs, 1 bathroom. He knew where everything was. He spoke in a flat, unhurried way, like a man reciting something he had memorized. Claire noticed things as they walked. There were no personal photographs anywhere in the house, no books, no mail, no keys hanging by the door, no calendar on the wall, none of the small debris of someone's life that accumulates in a home, even a part-time one. The house felt staged. Not in the Airbnb sense. Not cleaned and minimized for guests, in a different way. More like a room that had been assembled to look like a home by someone who had studied what homes look like from the outside. She didn't say anything. She told herself she was tired from the drive. Derek gave them the Wi-Fi password, written on an index card in careful block letters. He told them checkout was Sunday at noon. He pointed to a number on the refrigerator, call if you need anything, and walked to the door. At the door, he paused. One thing, he said, the back field. Paul asks that guests don't go past the tree line after dark. The terrain drops off, and it can be easy to get turned around. He smiled again. The same half-second delay. Enjoy your stay. He left. They heard his car on the dirt road for a long time before the sound faded. That night after dinner, Ryan went to bed early. Claire stayed up reading by the fire. At 11:15, she looked out the window. There was a light in the back field. Not a flashlight, something lower to the ground, stationary, like a lantern or a phone screen. She watched it for several minutes. It didn't move. She told herself it was a reflection, a neighbor's porch light through the trees. She turned back to her book. When she looked again 20 minutes later, the light was gone. In the morning, she opened the Airbnb app and pulled up Paul's profile. She scrolled through his reviews more carefully than she had before booking. The recent ones were consistent. Friendly host, great property, peaceful and quiet. She scrolled back further, to reviews from 2-3 years ago. There were several that mentioned Paul directly, not Derek, not a son, not a representative. Paul himself. A review from 3 years ago said, Paul met us at the door with a bottle of local cider. Wonderful man. Claire clicked on that reviewer's profile. They had left a follow-up comment on their own review 8 months later. It said, tried to contact Paul to book again, and his account seems inactive. Hope he's okay. Claire looked at Paul's profile page. His last login was listed as 19 months ago. She sat with that information for a long moment. Then she went to find Ryan. She showed him the profile. She showed him the review. She told him about the light in the field. Ryan was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Who booked us in?" Claire opened the app. She went to her messages. Every message in the conversation thread, the booking confirmation, the check-in instructions, the welcome note, was signed Paul. The last message had been sent 2 days ago, the day before they arrived. They left that morning. They packed their bags, loaded the car, and drove the half-mile of rutted dirt road back to the main road without telling anyone they were leaving, without calling the number on the refrigerator. Claire reported the listing to Airbnb before they reached the highway. She explained what she had found: the inactive account, the substitute host, the light in the field. She asked them to investigate. Airbnb sent an automated response acknowledging her report. A human representative followed up 4 days later to say that the host had been contacted and confirmed that a family member had been authorized to manage check-ins during a period of personal leave. The listing was not taken down. Claire asked if Paul himself had confirmed this. The representative said that all communication had been handled through the account. She asked to speak with Paul directly. They said they couldn't provide guest contact information. She tried to find Paul through the reviews, the people who had mentioned him by name, the reviewer who had left the follow-up comment. She found that reviewer's profile. She sent them a message through the platform. They never replied. Their account, she noticed, had been inactive for 14 months. The farmhouse listing is still active. It has been updated since Claire's visit. 3 new photos added. A new amenity listed. The calendar shows availability. The most recent review is from 6 weeks ago. It says, Derek was a great host, very helpful. We'll definitely be back. There is no mention of Paul. Claire still doesn't know who Paul is, or was. She's not sure anyone does anymore. 3 stays. 3 things left unexplained. If any of these stories happen to you, or if you have one of your own, you know where to find us. Sleep well.